welcome back to Tac Ops. I'm Greg. I'm here again with Eric.
Yeah, we're here for episode 2. We just finished up that last episode. It was the first one we've ever done, and we had a lot of success with it. A lot of people watched it.
Yeah, it was fun.
We had almost nothing but good comments throughout the whole comment section, which was really scary for me to go through YouTube comments because I was always telling myself I'm not going to do that.
But I didn't want to read them.
Oh man, they were almost all positive. There were a lot of questions throughout there, but I guess I want to answer the number one question, which was what was the band that played?
Oh, in our intro, yeah.
Yeah, during the intro, and that was Black Map, and the song is called Witching Hour. I have a video here playing that you guys can watch of them. We actually got to meet them back in April at a place called Trees where they played, and it was amazing. We got to meet them in the back and talk to them and stuff, and they were nothing but, grateful because we actually licensed the music. This is illegal.
Yeah, it cost some money.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we actually had to pay for this song, so it's not like we just took it from them. So I want you guys to understand that this band's amazing, and you should go check them out, buy their t-shirts and stuff. I put this in the back so you guys can see it, but this is the band that we actually got. This is Black Map, and this is a record they signed for us. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and how did you find them again?
So when I was recording, or when I was actually putting the intro video together and I was editing it together, I was trying to find some music to use.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going through a bunch of free use websites and stuff, and I just couldn't find anything that really matched. Because free use music is good, but
but it's free. You get what you pay for, right?
There's just something missing there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's just something missing. So yeah, I was listening to Spotify, and they started playing as I was editing the video together, and I couldn't find anything better. After sitting there for hours and hours and hours listening to music, I just couldn't find anything better. That was even close by a long shot.
Yeah, it fits together so perfect. It really goes with the video you made for us.
Yeah, and the thing about free use music is nobody sings. So this is a band I can actually license to sing. And I didn't know how much it would cost. I've never licensed music before.
No, me either.
I don't know anything about that. And I was just like, hey, let me write up my own license. And I sent it to them. And they're like, yeah, we make these few changes. And, what's your budget like? It was great, man. They were so welcoming to me.
Yeah.
Considering I didn't have
any real credentials or background really to,
Yeah, I mean, we had our Twitter handles and stuff like that, and the things I could talk about editing with you and stuff, but there was nothing really there. I didn't have a show to
a big
show
production
them.
studio or something, sure.
But they were like, hey, let's do this. We don't care. And they were nothing but humble and
grateful. They were cool. We have a picture we'll show up right here where we got to meet them back in April like you were talking about.
Right.
So, yeah, they're cool. Go check them out. They have other good songs too. They grew on me over time, but that's my favorite song of theirs.
Right.
Yeah, so after that, I guess we could just roll into the topics, military-related topics.
Right.
The first one, I know I've been telling you about this guy, Igor Girkin,
right.
Strelkov. He was a former FSB. A lot of people get it wrong. It's somewhat more akin to our FBI, not the CIA.
Right.
Closer to, but they have a lot more they do than just what the FBI does here. So he was former FSB for a long time. He played a huge role in 2014 in Russia taking Crimea. He later became the leader of Donbass, again in 2014. Then it's almost certain that I think he actually admitted to it too, that he gave the order to shoot down. Remember that Malaysian Airlines flight 17? Yeah.
Right.
Remember when that went down? It was 300 people killed. Right. I believe he admitted to it that actually he gave that order to shoot it down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So his defense, though, they believed it was some big cargo aircraft of Ukraine. And that could be true. Again, back in Iran, I think it was Operation Praying Mantis. Not long after that, the U.S. accidentally shot down an Iranian civilian aircraft. It was probably by mistake and probably the same thing here. But anyways, it was bad publicity to keep Igor there in Ukraine. So after that happened, a lot of people in the West were calling him out, wanting to charge him with war crimes. Russia pulled him out, and then he just kind of disappeared. We didn't hear a lot from him. But he's been extremely critical of this war in Ukraine ever since, this year going on. He's criticized the leadership nonstop, including Putin, which is, not something you really do a lot in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
They don't really tolerate that. He's not against the war. He's against the way it's being fought. He's a, real hardline Russian nationalist. And he was calling for mobilization long ago, pretty much since the beginning. Been very critical about the way it's been being fought. He thinks that Russia needed to fully mobilize, declare martial law, use everything they have to go into Ukraine and win it. So then finally, I would read him. He usually posts stuff. And, for all the issues that could be right or wrong about him, he is extremely knowledgeable in, military tactics and all that stuff. he would post every day, and it was really interesting to read all this stuff. And then finally he stopped posting. I believe it was on Monday, and no one really heard from him from several days. And then his wife posted this on the Telegram channel that he finally got to join back in the Russian army or the ground forces and then go fight in Ukraine. We don't really know too much about him yet, but here is a picture that showed up today of him standing on a street corner. Not much more information than that. Somebody was able to geolocate this. Can you believe that? There's nothing really to go off of in this picture at all, except a sign. I believe they were able to figure out that was a Shell gas station. So somebody looked at every single Shell gas station in all of Ukraine, like eastern Ukraine, and in the edge of the border areas near Russia, and they found this location. And it's actually, this isn't in Ukraine. It's right on the edge of Ukraine. So this is probably when he was entering into it.
Right.
But his wife did post some updates that he's fighting there. He said that the battles are really tough. They're losing a lot of men. But yeah, he's just an interesting person overall. Again, for any, good sides or bad sides, ignoring that, he knows what he's talking about. He's obsessed with military history.
Right.
Here I have a few more pictures of him. He always would take part in the reenactments of historical battles.
Right.
So you can see him here in the background. Here's another historical, going back to, it looks like Roman times. Yeah, he loves doing all that stuff. But yeah, he's an interesting character to follow. I think there's like a $150,000 bounty on his head right now too.
Like dead or alive?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's being real careful. I don't think we're going to hear a lot more from him. Fortunately or unfortunately, like I said, his insight was very interesting to read.
Right.
But yeah, that's Igor Girkin and/or Strelkov.
Yeah, it's interesting to see social media, like we've seen it a lot, because we spend a lot of time on there, but like how easily you can geolocate somebody.
Oh yeah.
You go outside and take a photo outside your house. Somebody's going to go on, like Zillow or whatever these companies are that document housings, sales, and they'll just find out where your house is, It's really interesting. That's why it's as a security standpoint for your house and for your family, you shouldn't post a lot of photos outside.
If you can, nothing at all.
Right.
If anything, just a normal background of your wall inside, as little as possible.
Right.
So what other topics we got? Oh, you got a drones. I know that's one you're real interested in.
Yeah, definitely, because I've had one for a while and I love this thing. It's impressive what you can do with these things. So I got a video right here of a drone that they've mounted a machine gun to. I don't know what kind of machine gun this is because it's definitely a small machine gun. I would imagine it's maybe about this big. I don't know what it shoots, but it's some kind of gun they've mounted to this thing, and it seems pretty impressive because you can see the drone at least balance itself and keep itself up.
Yeah.
They don't show it firing, and that's another reason we're showing you because we don't want YouTube to demonetize us because we're shooting stuff.
Do you think it would even work though? The recoil on that?
I would think so because the drones are pretty good, especially when they're tied up to GPS and you can see the antennas on top. They're designed to go with the wind. So if you have something push it, it'll try to push back. Even if it's not the wind, it could be the gun or whatever. I'm sure it's not programmed specifically for a machine gun, but I think the AI is smart enough to keep it balanced.
Huh.
And you're probably going to have to fight it just like you would a regular machine gun. They all kick. Every time you shoot a gun, it goes up, so you got to fight it somehow.
Yeah.
But the AI may be even better than how you could shoot the machine gun because,
It could be, yeah. But even if firing doesn't knock it over, just the recoil of it might not be able to hold it on target for, future every round after that.
So I have this video right here, the same drone, and you can see a close-up of the machine gun they have mounted on there and a close-up of the drone before they flew it. It looks like it works. I'm not sure. It looks like it's on a gimbal. Everything on there looks like it should work. But they don't show a video of it shooting, so I don't know.
I just feel like if this did work, somebody else would have done it a while ago.
Yeah.
But maybe. I don't know.
Who knows?
There has to be a first time for everything, right?
Yeah, and that's a weird machine gun. That could be anything for all I know. It could be,
it's hard
part of a washer. Like a motor for a washer and just a shaft hanging out. I have no idea.
Or just a broom handle like they did in World War II,
But, that's what we got. So, yeah, it's interesting to see that.
But, yeah, if you want to talk about, if we got time, you want to talk about your drone real quick. Because one of the big things going on is Ukraine and Russia dropping grenades from their drones.
Right.
So since you have one, this is one of the ones that they've been using, right? This is a pretty popular variant, right?
Yeah, so this is the DJI Inspire 1 that you can buy on eBay or anywhere, really. And I got this one. in a pretty nice setup for about $1,000. And it came with the wings and the batteries and everything. Came with the camera. You know, this has got an actual 4K camera mounted to it, which is nice, and that's why I use it for like videography and different projects that I'm working on. It's set up where you can take the camera off and you can mount anything to the inside of the drone right here. Yeah. So all you've got to do is design a mount that will fit into here and communicate through here. Yeah. Into the mount to just release it, and it's just like a camera. So this actually takes photos. Mm-hmm. So all you got to do is basically program the drone to say, "Hey, take a photo," and then this mount will accept that as a take a photo, but it actually just opens up and drops a grenade or whatever it is out of the bottom.
Yeah. And what is this a camera down here too?
So this is the actual landing radar. It's not LiDAR, but it's just like a radar. It's like this is an actual camera, I think, too, but. This is what stops it from hitting the ground or whatever.
Okay. Is there any way you can see that camera, though? Because all the drone footages we see is a camera pointing straight down. And if they took out the camera to then strap a grenade to it, they would either have to put then another camera on, right?
No, this camera will actually point straight down.
Okay, but then where are you going to put the grenade if you have that on?
That's the question I have. Is I think they have a mount that goes to a camera and maybe to
and also
a grenade holder.
To let go of it.
The weight has to be centered on the drone, or else it'll try to tip.
Sure. Yeah.
So you have to distribute the weight, especially through the grenade, through the main body right here. So you may still be able to put a camera up front, and it still stays stable as you drop it.
Yeah, and then when you see it, when they let go of it, it does kind of drift a little bit.
I haven't seen one. I don't want to try to get in a whole bunch of research with this because I don't want the FBI putting me on some kind of red flag list.
Yeah, we were talking about doing that, like dropping a can of Coke for us. Yeah, because
I honestly kind of want to do that. I would love to get a, like a can of Coke or something we could drop. I don't want to get into that type of red flagness with the FBI.
Sure, so. Yeah. Especially in a populated area here too. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because when I'm going to do it in a park, people are going to be freaking out when I'm dropping stuff from the sky. Plus, you're not legally supposed to do that anyways. You're not supposed to deliver things with drones. So, according to the FAA, that's kind of illegal. So, if you did it on private property, if you guys subscribe to our Patreon and give us a bunch of money so we can buy a 50-acre plot of land, we can definitely fly this thing out and drop all we want to.
We can try it. But yeah, I mean, we have a whole bunch of different props here. If there's any particular prop you guys would like to see or have us cover, let us know in the comments. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get to all of them. Especially, again. You might not be able to see it this time, but the big anti-tank missile we have here.
Yeah, the missile, the sonobuoy. I got all kinds of stuff, and we got everything. So it's going to be really interesting to go through all of it. And we're probably going to buy more as we go, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. Another thing that's a first that I've seen this week.
This video here, right?
Is a video of a drone getting blown out of the sky by a man pad, and there's a drone actually recording the whole thing.
Following.
So here, let me start the video right here. So you can see this drone flying right here, and there's another drone flying with it, and a man pad gets shot, and it blows it out of the sky. I mean, it is just nothing but pieces. I can't believe just how destroyed that thing is.
Not only that, but the fact that the drone following it is not hit, because supposedly, at least, what people are saying is that's a Russian drone that is hit, and a Ukrainian drone following it.
Right.
So the fact that, only that one got hit, I mean, those are flying close together, and most man pads are infrared guided. They don't have a lot of ability to then, especially probably the ones they're using in Ukraine, don't have a lot of ability to distinguish between them. Plus, their drones, they probably look the same,
And that was just flying out front, so maybe that's why he got hit first. Who knows? These are all tactics that are new. Yeah. This is a whole new game right here. The drone wars have started,
But yeah, then speaking about drones, here was another one that we were kind of debating earlier on, whether or not this is a decoy that it hits, because you're right, it does look a little weird.
Yeah, the tubes just don't look right. There's something odd about them. When you see an S300, the tubes are very symmetrical, and they're upright, and they're round. But these are they're bent. You can see bends in them and stuff. It just doesn't look right to me. I don't know. And everybody online is calling this video out too.
The first thing you can see here, I'll go through it kind of slower. But here is the TEL, the Transporter Erector Launcher. And they have 4 missiles on the back. This is an S300. In the background here, you can see a flap lid engagement radar. And again, so when it starts to come up right here, again, if you can see my mouse, they had the flap lid engagement radar. So that, along with other stuff in here, makes me kind of believe that it's not a decoy. I mean, it's a very detailed decoy, if it is, to actually have all the other components of the system. But right here is what you're talking about, right?
Right. Yeah, so you can see the top of the tubes don't look.
It looks a
They
little
don't
flimsy
look correct.
and strange, yeah. But at the same time, that could be, again, if you can see my cursor, some camouflage netting that is they often put over the top of it, to kind of hide it from aircraft and satellites. And that could be explaining why these kind of look weird and weird angles painted on here.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of weird and hard to tell. So then they have another drone filming that drone flying in. The strike on it, that's not a good angle.
Yeah, and this is where I kind of question my own inflatable theory, because you can see
Yeah.
it looks like the top of the tubes are blown off.
Right, so it looks like something rigid enough to have taken a hit by that and not just
Deflate.
Right. I got one more video here of another S-300 system being hit. This is a tin shield, that's the NATO name for it, radar, and this is a search radar. So we were talking about before that flap lid radar, that's the one that's the actual engagement radar. This is a search radar. This one will actually search for any threat. If it finds something, it could pass it over to that flap lid, that engagement radar we saw before, which will then guide a weapon to it. But here's another hit, and this one I do not think is a decoy. This thing looks pretty solid here.
Yeah, that looks real.
And then again, they have another angle of it being hit. There's that drone flying in. Whew. And there's nobody in these things too. If that radar's operating, there's nobody in there, so
right.
No one's getting hurt. We actually found that you could buy these decoys, inflatable S-300s on, what was it, Alibaba?
Yeah, Alibaba, I think, is one of the places you can buy them. I mean, there's a bunch of different places.
I'm sure,
Skype.
yeah.
You just call them directly on Skype or whatever. You can actually see
they even have a phone number.
Yeah, their phone number and stuff down there. But yeah, they're full inflatable. Whatever you want. This is just an S300 with the actual truck, but you can buy just the actual S300 tube. Yeah, they're full inflatable. Whatever you want. This is just an S300 with the actual truck, but you can buy just the actual S300 tubes that go directly up.
Yeah.
Which is what I had seen before, which is why I thought that was a decoy, because they look very similar.
Yeah. I mean, they look good though. I mean, they're obviously up close like this, so it looks fake. But if you're talking about from an aircraft or somebody from any sort of distance, that'll look pretty real. And then not only that, but they'll also sometimes put metal radar reflectors, corner reflectors in there. So any sort of radar, ground radar, will actually have it pick up. So it'll have the same signature as it would, a real one would. And sometimes they even put heating elements on there, like where the engine would be.
Oh, right.
So it'll show up thermally, in infrared as what they think might be a real S300. So it really sells the whole decoy thing.
Yeah, and they're significantly cheaper than buying an actual S300, because this one was like 10 grand or something like that. If you buy 20 of them, you can get them for like 8 grand or something, some kind of crazy deal. But
which again, if we get 50 acres, maybe we can set up several batteries of it. Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah, definitely. So it's a pretty cool idea, but they're relatively cheap, compared to actually buying one, and you would much rather have this thing get hit.
Oh, yeah.
But if you got hit by a drone or a missile or something, this thing's just gonna deflate completely.
But yeah, again, a lot of people were talking about it. They thought that might be a decoy, but I would probably say no, based on the after footage at least of it.
Right.
So what else do we have going on in the news recently?
Now the big one is this laser-mounted shark airplane weird design that's showed up. Tyler Rogaway has the Warzone, the website, which if you guys haven't checked out, you should totally check it out. It's a really good website that we research a lot of stuff off of. Those guys collected a bunch of this imagery and stuff about this new aircraft that I've never seen before, and it has a laser pod, I guess, on the bottom, and it has an image of a shark with a laser strapped to the top of it.
From like Austin Powers.
Yeah. Right, from Austin Powers, yeah.
I think it's the Model 401.
Yeah, the Model 401.
This is kind of just an experimental platform they have. It looks like it's some form of low observable aircraft. So yeah, this thing has its air intake and also exhaust that's on top of the aircraft, and not only that, both recessed back, and that kind of helps make it more stealthy. So the exhaust being recessed like that, it'll help it with thermal, infrared, being able to track it and pick it up. And then also the air intake. Yeah, it's a lot of weird shapes, so it can reflect a lot of radar. So things like the B-2, you'll see that in other stealth platforms.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, this seems like some sort of test platform. And then here in this video, you can tell it doesn't have that laser, that whatever it is, pod on the bottom of it. So it kind of seems like a platform they can use to just slap different things on and test different things.
Right.
So if we go back to his page here, again, I have a lot of it's kind of speculation. The one main thing they think it might be, but I could be wrong, I have not read Tyler's article yet, but it might be, they're working on a thing I know called SHIELD, I believe, and I forget what it stands for, but it's some sort of defensive laser system that can shoot down surface-to-air and air-to-air missiles that are fired at aircraft. So the idea would be, in a perfect world, to be able to put this on fighter aircraft and all that. So if it gets in a dogfight, a Chinese aircraft or whoever fires a missile at it, it can then use this laser automatically and instantly fry it. You don't have to actually. That's the other thing we were talking about too, because lasers need a lot of power. But with smaller surface-to-air missiles, you really don't need to burn through it or really destroy it physically. Just kind of fry its electronics.
Yeah, you don't have to do a whole lot to them to make them, veer off course.
No.
One of the things I find really interesting about this image is that it has a jet port that comes out of the bottom of it. And I don't really understand that because, we show that video. You can see the intake and the exhaust, but now there's a second exhaust that comes out of the bottom, which I don't understand. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that before. Normally when you see exhaust that goes down, it's like a vertical takeoff or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But this is obviously way too small for that.
And that little icon there could just be to throw off and just mess with people.
Yeah.
The military has done that several times in the past. What were they called? The jet assisted takeoff or the RATO, the rocket assisted takeoff.
Right.
Because if that is some, exhaust in the rear part of it there, that facing downward, that'll let the aircraft take off in a shorter distance. So it can be used on other, smaller air bases.
That would be really interesting if that's what it was, because if you had a stealth version of that rocket-assisted takeoff, how do you do it? Where you have probably a capsule that you pull out, you load this rocket into that's stealth, hidden inside of it, and then it ports out like that. So yeah, that's totally possible.
Yeah. So all this is just pictures they found, right? Or some people took pictures. There's no actual official information, I believe, out there exactly what it is. So
yeah, and if a laser can do anything, right? It hasn't necessarily shoot anything down. It can actually target, find distance. There's all kinds of different things that lasers can do. So who knows what this thing is?
Targeting pods are usually not stealthy, right? So if you mount a targeting pod like the Lightning or the AT FLIR, it's going to reflect a lot more radar waves. So they're not necessarily stealthy. Maybe, if you said this is a targeting pod, maybe it's some form to be used to be stealthy. But all the stealth aircraft have that built in, like the F-35. I know the Chinese, the J-20 and stuff. Those are built into the aircraft, like the EOSTs. So I don't know why you would need a pod necessarily.
Yeah, it's an interesting photo.
Yeah, it's cool nonetheless. Definitely go over and check out his article on that.
Yeah, definitely. So the next one is the inside of a Trident D5.
Ooh.
That almost looks like a scary clown. And
the smiley face.
Yeah, and we're getting so close to Halloween. I figured I'd kind of post this up. I'm sure somebody can take this on Photoshop and turn it into a weird, crazy clown, and it would be kind of fun. But
it's good enough how it is, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting to see inside the bus. So when you watch our intro video, you see the dark sky, and you see that thing kind of veer off up into the top, and then you see the actual missile come off. So the way the nuclear weapons are designed is the actual weapon itself is this street cone that you see in this image, but the bus itself is the big. It's like a bus. It carries everything, right?
Sure.
And so whenever you drop the weapons, the bus will veer off into out of the way, so it doesn't get in the way. But it doesn't really do anything. After you drop the nukes. But up until that, it's really interesting to see kind of what this is. I wasn't stationed on a ballistic missile submarine. I wasn't privy to, what is inside here or anything. I don't know anything about them. But it just looks really interesting to have this kind of weird smiley face thing,
Yeah. And you don't get to see the inside of a lot of these very often. So we're pretty sure this is a Trident D5.
Right.
Probably W88 warheads. I believe I've read it could hold up to 12, anywhere from 1 to 12 of those individual warheads there. You can see 4. And it looks like you could probably fit 8, right? There's 2 more on the bottom open.
Well, there's actually
maybe
2
more
up
up there.
Yeah, so there's actually 6 mounted, and you can see the 2 that are missing. So
okay.
8.
I couldn't see those on top. Yeah, so 8 total.
Yeah, and so if you go back to our old Tac Ops episodes, you could talk. We talked to Greg Kursak, and he had a really interesting take on all of this because he was a missile tech, and he got to go through the Russian inspections and stuff like that, and he was explaining what that was all like. But he was telling us that you can modify these to kind of do whatever you want with. So yeah, if you haven't checked out our old episodes, there's hours and hours of that. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah, it was cool.
Happy Halloween, by the way, with this creepy missile.
What else we got?
And then the next one we got is, so this is kind of this. I think this is a big one in terms of naval power and projecting power around the world. The French Navy has released a image of their new. They've released an image of their new carrier that's going to be nuclear powered.
Oh.
So there's going to be another nuclear powered carrier out there that's not ours. Now France is really nuclear friendly. So they have, I mean, a lot of their power is nuclear power. There's a lot of their energy comes from nuclear power. So if anybody was probably going to have a nuclear powered carrier, it'd be them or the UK, but they really bought into it because I think their energy production is, you know, it's all nuclear. So they're a lot more privy to it and they understand it better.
Yeah.
Do
you have any information on how big this thing is?
I have no idea. This is just an image they released at this point. This was just released this morning, so I have no idea about what it is. It came from Naval Group, so this is the actual design company. They're the ones that design their submarines.
Okay.
So yeah, they have experience with nuclear power and everything. So if anybody's going to pull it off for France, it's going to be them. So it's really interesting to see them drop this photo.
Yeah, but also for now, it's just an 3D rendering, right? There's a good chance, there's a possibility, like I said, probably a good chance it'll never get built. How many renderings have we seen of Russian aircraft carriers? And granted, that's different, but still, you know, everyone makes their own mock-ups and renderings and everything of stealth aircraft and everything, and almost none of them ever get built.
Right, and this is the first one, so even if they do build it, it's going to be 2045 or something like that by the time it actually comes out. Because you got to figure out how to source all this and build this giant thing in some kind of shipyard. You never built anything like this big in for.
So that's the carrier. Then there was another one going on with that's a little bit more closer with your knowledge base. Is the South Korean submarines?
Yeah, so South Korean submarines they're having a lot of issues with something with the induction side of the motors, induction modules, induction wiring. There's a lot of like rumors and kind of speculation going on, but basically the power being supplied to the motors, they're having some kind of issues with them. And it's happened in a few of the submarines.
Are they all the same class that it's happening to?
Yeah, so the submarines were built by Germany. They're all Type 214 submarines.
Okay.
And they're all designed basically the exact same way. So when it's like Ford or Chevy. Whenever you have a problem with them,
you have a problem with all of them.
With all of them, right?
Yeah.
You can't really recall submarines, because you have leases and deals or whatever you're doing with them. But the induction side's on a diesel submarine is like the vital part of the power supply to the motors. If you can't maintain that bus, I mean, you're not going to do anything, and you can't propel yourself. And that's what we're seeing is where the submarines are basically dying out in the ocean, and they got to tow them back, which is scary. As a submariner, if you can't propel yourself, like you can't get back up.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not supposed to
blow all the ballast.
Yeah, you're not supposed to blow ballast to get up. You're supposed to propel yourself back up, right? I'm not going to get into the details of everything, but every submarine has a list of reasons why you emergency blow, right? And on nuclear powered submarines, if you lose propulsion, like if you don't have a reactor and you don't have a feasible way to get it back, you emergency blow because you can't just stay down there, right? So it's really interesting to see these submarines all dying on something that's as vital as anything. Like if you can't propel yourself as a submarine or a ship in general, what's the purpose, right? So they've had a few of these submarines already go through this. They don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the submarines. They're saying that a lot of them are probably not going to have this issue, but they don't know. So what Naval News basically came up with was they're having some kind of depolymerization with the wiring, which means, from what I understand,
like rust?
It's the coating on the outside of a wire, right? So it's like a polymer, it's like a plastic, right?
Yeah.
That you put on outside the wire.
Sure.
But if you were to cut the wire,
yeah,
what happens if you take that wire and you touch something with it? You ground out.
Short it, yeah.
So, and you short it, right? So I feel like just from a machinery standpoint and my experience, I would imagine that something has vibrated. They designed this main wire to be in this spot, and it's vibrating against something, and it's grinding off the coating on it, and it's grounding the wiring out, right? It could be anything, right? There could be just a bad design. Naval News talks about the inverter modules and stuff. There could be all kinds of different reasons why the induction power doesn't make it to the motors. But you don't get that power to the motors, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's a real big problem, and they've already started to cut deals to get them all fixed, and they're going to have to pull them out. They're apparently going to have to pull the submarines out of the water. No, all the ones that are damaged. They're going to have to pull them out, and it's going to take like 6 months to go in and replace all this main wiring, because it's like I said, it's like the vital bus of the submarine. So it's, you're not talking about wires this big. You're talking about wires probably this big. These are the main supply wires for the propellers. So they're not cheap wiring. They're probably specially designed by this company, whatever it is. So it's really important, because if this does keep going across their fleet, it could cause a big problem, because, there's only so many submarines you can keep out in the water, right?
Right. Like the 1/3 ratio you're talking about.
Right.
Which is basically, if you have 3 submarines, you can expect one to be deployed at any time. The other one in maintenance or undergoing some sort of overhaul, and then the other one, between deployments, right?
Yeah, definitely. So you have one underway, you have one, generally it's just downtime, right? You got to give the crew a break, right? They just can't be like in a dry dock working all the time and out to sea all the time, which the Navy's really starting to push, and it's gotten pretty crazy. They're having a hard time keeping people and stuff because of
other
that.
issues. Then,
Back to South Korea, if you lose a third, you could possibly lose the main third, and now you have not a whole lot in the water. You could lose a third of your fleet out of the water. What we've seen in the past is when North Korea sees those weaknesses, that's when they pounce and they start to do things.
And they weren't they? I think it was just today, or a few days ago, when you're watching this, but they were shelling an area on the border, and they said that it was sending a strong measure to South Korea against their war games and stuff, their exercises they're holding at the time.
That's a big powerhouse for them, as their submarine force, because the North Korean submarine force is, obviously it's bullshit, right? It's probably all decrepit, it's old. Most of it, we obviously know it doesn't work. Most of it doesn't ever leave. It just sits there some of the time. So, when they do test these SLBMs, they put them on underwater platforms. They don't actually test them on a submarine. So, that's a huge advantage for South Korea, and for them to lose that is big for them. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with this.
Yeah, how far it sets them back.
Right.
Speaking of that, we got one more topic left to cover before we wrap up here. The air show.
Yeah, definitely. So the next big thing we got going on tomorrow, I'm going out to the air show, the Alliance Air Show. Yeah. It's a big air show that we have here in Dallas-Fort Worth, where we live and work. And it's always been an amazing air show. Like last year we went, they displayed some kind of new helicopter I had never seen before. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the new Marine attack helicopters with the prop on the back. That's
kind of like the Osprey, right?
Right.
It was, yeah.
There have always been 2 days, but now they're only dialing it back to 1 day.
For the public.
Yeah, I think all the tickets are already sold out, so you can't even get there. Yeah. We got media passes, so we're going to show up and actually try to shoot a show there on Saturday.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
But I'm going to be there Thursday. I'm going to be there Friday for VIP Media Day. We're going to do interviews with the Thunderbirds. I'm going to try to interview people that work with Lockheed. I'm going to try to do whatever I can to try to network us in to go see the local military stuff. Like we have a Lockheed.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here.
Right.
Massive base there.
I want to see if we can network and get in with those guys, and maybe we can even shoot a show on the manufacturing line. That was always something I thought would be really cool, to like sit on the F-35 line and just sit here at the table, and there's like an F-35 getting something done to it in the background.
Yeah, going through it.
I thought that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, so we're going to be out there all day Saturday. It's going to be really fun. I'm really excited about going out there and seeing all that stuff. So we're going to try to document everything we can and shoot a bunch of B-roll and all this other fun stuff. So I'm really excited about it. We've gone basically every year for what?
Yeah.
4 years now?
Since I moved here, yeah.
Yeah, 3-4 years. And we always have a great time. So nobody else, as far as I understand, is going to shoot a show out there like we are. Yeah. So it's going to be something new for them. They don't really know how to deal with it and everything. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to do the best we can. It is something new for everybody. So yeah, it's going to be great. I'm really excited to go out there.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah,
Anything
definitely.
else you want to cover real quick?
No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. Patreon, make sure you like it, subscribe.
We'll have the links down for that in the description as normal. But anyway, that wraps it up for this week. Thanks for watching.